Near 5,000 permanent posts for health personnel available this year. Management of foreign workers realigned, recruitment period reduced. A total of 4,914 permanent positions will be available in the Health Ministry in 2023, the bulk of which are for medical officers. In a New Year address this morning, Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa said that 4,263 positions were for medical officers, 335 openings for dentists and 316 for pharmacists. Dr. Zaliha said the advertisement for the positions would be open from today till 21st January. Last year, then Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin had announced that 4,053 contract healthcare workers would be offered permanent positions. Dr. Zaliha also said MOH is looking into the need for health clinics to operate on extended hours to reduce non-critical patients at emergency departments.
Disebabkan oleh 70% daripada kes-kes yang kita terima di ED atau di kecemasan itu adalah kes-kes zon hijau atau cold cases, ya, ataupun kes yang bukan kritikal. Jadi ini sebenarnya berjauhan sedikitlah, atau bertentangan sedikit dengan skop dan fungsi sebenar Jabatan Kecemasan. Jadi sepatutnya Jabatan Kecemasan, nama pun kecemasan, sepatutnya kita menerima kes-kes yang lebih kritikal. Jadi bila 70% adalah kes-kes yang bukan kritikal, itu sebenarnya menyumbang kepada kesesakan yang agak teruklah.
The government will restructure the application process to bring in foreign workers into the country by shortening the whole procedure to 30 days or less. Home Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said his ministry would now take the lead as the main custodians for the management of foreign workers. Elaborating further, Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution said the ministry plans to shorten the whole process, including the application prior to approval, medical checkups and visa application. He also revealed that 3/4 of the approval and application process would now be parked under the Home Ministry, while the Human Resources Ministry would still be responsible for compliance to labour policies, quota eligibility and cooperation with source countries.
Agensi-agensi kawal selia termasuk KDN yang mengawal visa dan sumber manusia yang mengawal kota kelulusan mempermudahkan proses. First quarter, kalau semua berjalan licin, dia akan menyumbang paling kurang 1% kepada keluaran dalam negara kasar. 1% ini sebenarnya angka yang besar. Ya. Jadi sebab itu kerajaan memberi perhatian serius kepada aspek mempermudahkan dan melegakan sebarang aspek kalau ada kekangan dan halangan here and there di peringkat agensi kawal selia.
Datuk Sri Saifuddin Nasution said the changes will start in the second or latest the third week of this year, subject to the next cabinet meeting. The Ministry of Defence will beef up the security aspects of the Malaysian Navy, Malaysian Army, Royal Malaysian Navy and Royal Malaysian Air Force domains to prevent cyber attacks and improve the electromagnetic fields in the country. Defence Minister Datuk Sri Mohamad Hassan said such initiatives are important to protect the domains from the threat of cyber attacks that has become rampant and if not checked or protected may result in an uncertain situation in relation to the security and safety of the nation. Therefore, he said the Armed Forces Chief General Tan Sri Afendi Buang has suggested that a new division be set up to protect the domains and electromagnetics of the country.
Cadangkan supaya ia perlu dijayakan segera, ya. Lihat betul-betul supaya ini merupakan salah satu strategi pertahanan baru negara, ya. Kalau tidak nanti kita kena jam semua, susah kita.
Meanwhile, in line with the commitment of the ministry to safeguard the welfare of the armed forces, Datuk Sri Mohamad said a 3.0 housing blueprint will be enhanced to build houses for 12,000 armed forces families under the 12th Malaysia Plan. On another note, Datuk Sri Mohamad said the ministry will realise the construction of the Littoral Combat Ship LCS project for the Royal Malaysian Navy to strengthen the defence of national waters. He said the ministry's mission is to complete the ships by 2024.
Saya juga turut memandang serius projek pembinaan kapal second generation petrol vessel keupayaan ataupun LCS. Our mission is to complete the ships. Saya akan meneruskan usaha-usaha yang telah dilaksanakan oleh MINDEF dan TDM dalam serta agensi lain serta Kementerian Kewangan, Kementerian Ekonomi, Lembaga Tabung Angkatan Tentera bagi merealisasikan penyiapan LCS ini, ya.
Datuk Sri Mohamad said he had consulted the Finance Ministry and the Economy Ministry so as to be able to explain the actual situation on the LCS issue. A set of guidelines needs to be prepared with regard to the jurisdictions and roles of the federal and state agencies in Sabah and Sarawak involved in the implementation of development projects. Works Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said this follows the announcement by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim in recognising the Public Works Departments JKR in Sabah and Sarawak as government technical departments. Datuk Sri Alexander explained that the decision involves the amendment to Treasury Directive 182, which previously stipulated that all non-technical departments must obtain services from recognised technical departments only, namely JKR Malaysia and Irrigation and Drainage Department, to implement all government projects. He said the Prime Minister's announcement was a recognition that allows the two states to have full control over development projects worth up to 50 million ringgit. Touching on the progress of the Pan-Borneo Expressway project, he said Phase 1 of the project in Sarawak had reached 91% completion, while the Sabah portion was 73% complete. The entire Phase 1 in Sarawak is expected to be completed by the end of this year, except for Package 11 involving the construction of a highway between Lambir and Beluru, while Phase 1 in Sabah is expected to be fully completed by the end of 2025. The Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cost of Living seized 115 million ringgit worth of goods involving 10,894 cases of violating controlled and subsidized items throughout last year. Deputy Minister Fuzia Saleh said this includes traders cheating customers and altering the price tag of eggs, among other things.
Telur itu grade dia tulis lain. Contoh, katalah grade itu A, dia tulis grade lain dan dia jual mahal. Jadi kalau didapati itu kesalahan akan disita. Ini yang diambil tindakan rampasan dan sebagainya ni. Jadi itu tindakan-tindakan yang diambil oleh pihak penguatkuasa lah.
Speaking after inspecting the supply of food items at a supermarket in Jelawat, Fuzia said other offences recorded were related to the supply of packet cooking oil, flour, petrol and diesel. She also noted that Ops Bersepadu would continue to be carried out to combat offences on controlled and subsidised goods, especially during festive seasons. The Batangkali Genting Highlands Road in Hulu Selangor, which was closed since 16th December following the landslide tragedy at Father's Organic Farm campsite, will be open to traffic at 5 p.m. today under the surveillance of the authorities. Public Works Department in a statement announced that a temporary route will be opened with only one lane and is limited to workers in Genting Highlands with an employer's letter for Class 1 vehicles such as cars, taxis and multi-purpose vehicles, as well as Class 6 vehicles including motorcycles and scooters. According to the department, motorists using the road are not allowed to stop at the landslide incident section. They are advised to be careful when passing through the road and adhere to all signages as works to monitor the slope is still being carried out. The department also urged road users to use alternative routes such as the Ulu Yam Batu Caves and Kuala Lumpur Ipoh routes to reduce congestion. The landslide tragedy, which occurred at 2:42 a.m. on 16th December at the camping site of Father's Organic Farm in Gotong Jaya, Batang Kali, took 31 lives, while 61 survived out of 92 victims reported in the incident. Coming up next, Samsung hit by historic profit fall. But first, the agriculture and agro-food sectors experienced damages and losses amounting to 111.95 million ringgit as a result of the northeast monsoon last month. Agriculture and Food Security Minister Mohammad Sabu said the ministry's Disaster Management Centre report recorded damages and losses over 24,700 hectares of agricultural land. Explaining further, he said the damages and losses involved 12,000 farmers, breeders, as well as agro-food entrepreneurs throughout the country. However, he said despite the northeast monsoon disaster recently, the food supply of the country was still intact since floods mostly occurred in the east coast, while the west coast was relatively unaffected.
Bencana kita tak boleh ramalkan dan dia boleh datang bila-bila masa, dan setakat ini banjir di sebelah sini pantai barat yang tidak terancam sangat, dan setakat ini alhamdulillah segala bentuk makanan di Malaysia masih lagi terjaga.
The minister also noted that the ministry has provided a contribution involving 1 million ringgit allocation to assist the agro-food community hit by the monsoon disaster nationwide. It was channeled through the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security Caring Program. More electric vehicle EV-related incentives are in store in the revised Budget 2023. Prime Minister and Finance Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim will table the revised budget in the Dewan Rakyat on 24th February this year. According to Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change Minister Nik Ahmad, through incentives provided by the government for EVs in 2022, the number of registered EVs has increased to over 2,000 so far. He said Malaysia, through the Low Carbon Mobility Blueprint 2021 to 2030, aims to install 10,000 EV charging points by 2025.
Any new technology coming in, you have to have the ecosystem. And I think why today's event is very important as part of that process of providing an ecosystem for EV. It's a whole different technology. We think that EV is just a car powered by electricity, but it changes a lot of things that we're used to. So I agree that we need to do more to reach the targets, because if you don't reach that 10,000 charging points that we targeted, then it will also then affect our ability to reach our target to be earliest net zero by 2050.
Nik said to support the current and future growth of EVs in terms of charging infrastructure, regulations and standards are being updated to ensure the safety of the premises. He added that the Energy Commission has developed the EV charging system license and recommended charge point operators involved in developing infrastructure to charge EVs in the country to immediately obtain a valid public license for the installation of the charging system no later than 31st March this year. Samsung Electronics reported a likely 69% plunge in December quarter operating profit to an 8-year low as a global economic downturn saps demand for electronic devices and clouds the memory chip industry outlook. The world's largest memory chip smartphone and TV maker estimated its profit slumped to $3.37 billion in October to December, making it Samsung's smallest quarterly profit since the third quarter of 2014. Samsung said that memory chip prices also declined throughout the quarter due to increased inventory at memory suppliers. Its mobile business profit declined in the fourth quarter as smartphone sales and revenue decreased due to weak demand resulting from prolonged macroeconomic issues. Asia's fourth biggest listed company by market value, is due to release detailed earnings later this month. Coming up in our foreign segment, deadly riots in Mexico as El Chapo's son arrested. Thailand would not require tourists, including from China, to undergo pre-departure COVID-19 tests. Despite a surge in COVID-19 cases in China, the Public Health Ministry said all travellers entering the kingdom must be treated equally. According to the ministry, tourists entering the kingdom must show proof of at least 2 doses of vaccinations. They also need to provide proof of insurance to ensure that they can meet the costs of their treatment if their test in Thailand is positive. The ministry said these measures are necessary since Thailand is a major tourist destination. However, it noted that there will be no special measures for travellers entering the kingdom because all travellers must be treated the same. The ministry also agreed that tourists are allowed to get COVID-19 booster shots in Thailand. However, they will have to bear the cost as the Thai government has no policy on the provision of free vaccinations to tourists. Thailand is hoping for a recovery of its tourism sector and is projecting at least 20 million tourists, generating tourism receipts of $64.5 billion this year, excluding Chinese tourists. After China relaxed many of its stringent COVID restrictions starting 8th January, Thailand revised its targets to receive at least 25 million tourists, including Chinese travellers. Now, China will reopen the border with its special administrative region of Hong Kong at the weekend for the first time in 3 years, as it accelerates the unwinding of stringent COVID rules that have battered its economic growth. Now, the opening on Sunday will bring the resumption of quarantine-free travel between the financial hub and the mainland, although it will be done in a gradual and orderly way. Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee said a maximum of 60,000 people a day from either Hong Kong or China could cross the border from 8th January. People would need to make a reservation online to cross land borders, while ferries and flights are subject to ticket availability. Meanwhile, queues formed at a community vaccination station as Hong Kong residents seek protection against COVID-19 ahead of the opening of the city's border with mainland China, which some people fear will bring a surge of infections to the financial hub.
我已經打即係第3針都依家已經1年㗎啦，所以咪嚟打咯。同埋放住1月8號通關咗以後，就多人嚟打了。
就是通關以後，我也不緊張，因為其實國內看似好像好多人都有那個感染了吧，其實都比較輕的。我國內OK的人也有的都了，但是很快就好了啊。
City government centres providing the shot produced by BioNTech have, in recent days, been mostly booked solid, some till February, in contrast with a few weeks ago when anyone seeking a vaccine could stroll into an empty facility. Mexican drug cartel leader Ovidio Guzman, a son of jailed kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, was arrested, unleashing a violent backlash by gang gunmen that shut the airport in the city of Culiacan as authorities told residents to stay indoors. Defence Minister Luis Crescencio Sandoval told a news conference that security forces had captured the 32-year-old senior member of the Sinaloa cartel. The arrest comes 3 years after an attempt to detain him ended in humiliation for the government. Ovidio was now being held in the capital, Mexico City. Gunfire and arson shook Culiacan after the arrest, which comes as Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador prepares to welcome Biden next week for a North American Leaders Summit in Mexico City, at which security is expected to be high on the agenda. At least 18 people were injured in the violence, Sinaloa State Governor Ruben Rocha said, while school classes were suspended and sporting events in Culiacan were cancelled. The United States had offered a $5 million reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of Ovidio. It is not yet clear whether Ovidio will be extradited to the United States like his father, who is serving a life sentence at Colorado's Supermax, the most secure U.S. federal prison. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, 65, was convicted in New York in 2019 of trafficking billions of dollars of drugs to the United States and conspiring to murder enemies. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a 36-hour ceasefire in Ukraine to run during Orthodox Christmas, a move quickly dismissed by war-battered Kiev and its allies. Putin's directive to his troops was announced days after Moscow suffered its deadliest reported loss of the invasion, and as Ukraine's supporters pledged to send armoured vehicles and a second Patriot air defence battery to aid Kiev. Both nations celebrate Orthodox Christmas, and the Russian leader's orders came following ceasefire call from Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The Kremlin said it will run from midday today until the end of tomorrow. Kiev, however, quickly denounced the move, saying that temporary truce is only possible after Russia has left the occupied territories. US President Joe Biden was equally dismissive of Putin's announcement. News of Putin's ceasefire order came as Germany and the United States pledged to provide additional military aid for Kiev. Washington and Berlin said they will respectively provide Kiev with Bradley and Marder infantry fighting vehicles, and Germany will join the United States in supplying an additional Patriot air defense battery to Ukraine, doubling the number of advanced systems that have been promised to Kiev. In sports, Manchester City close gap on Arsenal with win at Chelsea. The 21,000 seats at the Bukit Jalil National Stadium has to remain vacant for the first leg of the AFF Cup 2022 semi-final clash between Malaysia and Thailand tomorrow due to the installation of an international-scale concert stage. Youth and Sports Minister Hannah Yeoh said the installation of the stage at the venue, which had been booked by the organisers of a tour by famous Taiwanese artist Jay Chou since March 2019, also involved a large crew, and it was impossible to change the situation at the stadium. The minister had received an explanation that those installation work involves 14 days involving 500 crew members as well as 185 international crew members entering Malaysia just for the setup. It also involved 45 heavy machinery, 200 speakers and 800 lights, and it is not like a normal stage tent that can be installed or opened at will. Jay Chou's concert is scheduled to take place on 15th January. The vacancy of 21,000 seats received criticism from football fans in the country. Hannah said the situation would remain the same if Malaysia qualified for the final, with the second leg scheduled to take place on 16th January. The Tunku Mahkota of Johor, Tunku Ismail Sultan Ibrahim, observed the national team's training session at Wisma FAM in Kelana Jaya yesterday. Tunku Ismail, who was accompanied by FAM President Datuk Hamidin Mohamad Amin, spent about 30 minutes watching the Harimau Malaya squad in training with head coach Kim Pangon. The owner of Johor Darul Takzim, JDT, also met with the players and coaching staff of the national team before leaving Wisma FAM at about 7 p.m. The national team are preparing for the semi-final first leg match of the 2022 AFF Cup against Thailand tomorrow. Defender Dominic Tan is already feeling the heat as he expects an epic tussle against the War Elephants.
Oh, I mean, definitely it's not going to be an easy game. Yalah, semua orang nak menang and qualify untuk finals. Tapi yalah, macam saya cakap, kita kena buat yang terbaik lah. And of course, it's important that we carry on our form from the game against Singapore.
Meanwhile, right back Quentin Cheng said the national team always took to the pitch with confidence against any opponent.
I think the boys are very confident. We've always been confident against any team that we verse in this tournament. Coach has given us game plans and tactics to carry out in each game, and we just have to try our best to try and follow what he tells us to do. If we do what we are able to do at our best performance, I think we can beat anyone.
Malaysia will head into this weekend's clash on a high after their thrilling 4-1 Causeway Derby thumping of Singapore last Tuesday, which paved the way for the Harimau Malaya to advance to the semi-finals as runners-up of Group B behind Vietnam, who will take on Indonesia in the other semi-final. After the match at Bukit Jalil, the Malaysian team will leave for Bangkok for the return leg of the semi-final at the Thammasat Stadium on 10th January. And over at the EPL, defending champions Manchester City beat injury-hit Chelsea 1-0 earlier today to close the gap on Premier League leaders Arsenal to just 5 points. Pep Guardiola's men were well below par in the first half, but were transformed after the break, with substitutes Jack Grealish and Riyad Mahrez combining for the only goal scored by the Algerian in the 63rd minute. Graham Potter's Chelsea came into the game at Stamford Bridge languishing in 10th place in the table, but they had the better of the opening 45 minutes. However, it was a different story in the second half as the visitors found their attacking rhythm, with Guardiola admitting they were miles better in every department after the break. Guardiola introduced Grealish and Mahrez on the hour mark to further freshen up his attack. The decision paid dividends minutes later when Grealish produced an excellent pass from the left and Mahrez prodded home from close range. The result leaves City 5 points behind Arsenal, who dropped points in a goalless draw against high-flying Newcastle earlier in the week. Lionel Messi will be rested for Paris Saint-Germain's French Cup game at third division side Châteauroux, as the Argentine forward needs more time to recover from his World Cup winning campaign. Messi took part in training over the last couple of days, but coach Christophe Galtier said he needed a bit more time to be ready to play competitively.
Concernant Léo, donc Léo s'est entraîné hier et aujourd'hui. Il a eu un peu plus de 12 jours de récupération avec les obligations de rentrer au pays, la célébration. On a souhaité qu'il récupère aussi chez lui, en famille. Évidemment, il ne jouera pas demain. Ayant discuté avec lui, on fait en sorte qu'il soit prêt pour le match suivant. On verra bien, on fera le point.
France forward Kylian Mbappe, who was on the losing side of the World Cup final, has been given a break and travelled to New York with friend and teammate Ashraf Hakimi, while Neymar skipped training on Thursday. League One leaders PSG, who suffered their first competitive loss this season when they were beaten 3-1 at second-placed RC Lens last Sunday, will be without their offensive trio for the next match against LB Châteauroux. And with that, we end today's updates at noon. In our top story today, nearly 5,000 permanent posts for health personnel available this year. Tune in to News at 10 coming up at 10 p.m. on My Freeviews Saluran Berita RTM, channel 123. You can also stream the channel via YouTube or RTM Click's web portal and mobile app. Thank you for watching. I'm Maureen Brea. Have a great weekend.